This happened a couple of years ago. Wife, 55, had a friend from her early 20s who was from the UK. Call him Graham. During this time, Graham was dating the wife's childhood best friend. All three remained friends, and the wife went to the UK to visit him and his family in her late 30s. Edit: the best friend above is not Graham's wife. I did tell the best friend, and she didn't really care because that was 30 years ago, and she is over the guy and happily married to someone not in this story. We got married in her 40s, and I was introduced to Graham and family virtually, and our families exchanged Xmas cards. Once in a while, I would hear some story about what Graham and family are up to. Fast forward 14 years, and in 2017, she is diagnosed with a cancer that is stage 4. Our relationship wasn't in a good place before this happened. Fast forward to late 2018. She decides she is going to London with a girlfriend for a girls' trip before they start a heavier round of chemo. She said she reached out to Graham for tips on what to do. Long story short, I found out they had started digital flirting before the trip and arranged for him to be in London with a hotel room when she lands. They smashed and then kept up the digital flirting when she got home for another month. When I uncovered what happened, I found the digital evidence, chat logs, pictures, and videos. Given her situation, I forgave her. We tried for another year, but the marriage was too broken, so we separated. At the time I uncovered the cheating, I was going to tell Graham's wife, which started my wife pleading to not destroy his marriage. In an effort to keep the peace, I agreed not to tell his wife. My agreement didn't dampen my feeling that Graham's wife should know and make her own decisions. The plan swimming around in my head is, once the wife passes, I will reach out to Graham's wife and ask if she wants to know where her husband was on January 19, 2019, and why I know what he did that day. If she chooses to remain in the dark, I wouldn't tell her. Would I be the idiot for going back on my word after she passes and telling Graham's wife and sending her the digital records I collected? TLDR, wife cheated, and the other party and his wife are known to me. I promise not to tell his wife once my wife passes from cancer. Would I be the idiot for breaking my word and giving his wife a chance to know the truth? Update. Separated 2.5 years, not getting divorced because she has terminal cancer. We each have our son half of the week. When I have him, she can get 4 to 12 texts a day with funny things our son does and pics of him doing things. I have asked multiple times if I am over-communicating, and she always says no. The flip side is, I normally get 1 text a day with a pic around 5 p.m. with a short sentence about his day. Once in a while, I will get 2 or 3 pics in a day. The reason we are separated was her infidelity. I really miss being part of my son's daily life. She knows this and uses the lack of information about my son as a weapon, especially if she takes him on a trip. 3 days of silence. I tell myself I keep sending her updates of our son because her time with him is very limited, and I wanted her to feel part of his life when she isn't with him. I've grown tired of the imbalance. I'm seriously considering sending her 1 update a day and then mimic her update frequency to me. What are your thoughts on changing my communication style with her given her situation? Edit. The 15th of February, 2023. Thank you for all of the advice, words of encouragement, and challenging me. I decided I'm going to suck it up and just continue to be myself and send her updates as I feel like it. In the end, I win because I get to watch my son grow up and she doesn't. 1 question has already resulted in a change in our routine. Each night, starting last night, my son will call the other parent for a daily check-in. Ungrateful, such a simple solution that I had overlooked. Thank you guys for the support. Update 2. TLDR. Never told the AP's wife about cheating. They live in the UK, and we're in the USA. Promised wife who is terminal I wouldn't tell his wife. She didn't want to impact their lives. Wife may die soon. Do I now tell? Several years ago, my wife went to the UK on a trip. She was 3 years into her current 4 years with stage 4B lung cancer. She went to see a friend from her 20s who used to date her best friend. When I found out, I reached out to his wife to tell her. Via FB, her husband told her to ignore me, and my wife asked me not to blow up their family. I've sat with this for years, wondering if I'm going to reach out to her again and spill the beans, or do I just send an email to him, his family, and work friends telling them about what happened. We have exchanged Xmas cards for years. He knows she is married. I equally hate the wife and him. When she passes, I've decided I'm going to give her a chance to hear what I have to say, and if she ignores me again, I drop the email with their digital flirting. Their kids are grown and either out of the house or close. Two people I respect a lot told me I am making a mistake and need to stay on the high road. Karma will get him, and I'm wondering if I'm the karma and not worried about blowback from him. There is no leverage he would have over me. I would keep my promise and only tell after she passes. My POV. My promise ends when her life ends. What would you do? Update 3. My goal is to get the copy polished so when my wife passes, I will make a final decision and then notify AP's wife. I have a backdoor to reach her FB account. I have not found any other methods, i.e., she doesn't have much of an online footprint. How I will do this? Post my draft, let folks suggest changes, I will make offline updates when I send. I will share final texts. Edit. Rewritten and softer. See comments. AP's wife sent, "Hi Sam. Your husband blocked me from talking to you in 2019. There is a damn good reason I wanted to talk to you first. I do not want to pre-apologize. You are about to have an awful experience. This will shape your life for the next few years. I've been thinking about this communication since early 2019, wondering if I should share or let you live your life unknowing. I've read the stories of countless people in the same situation, and they all were happier knowing the truth. So, you will get the truth. Why did I wait? Michelle just passed, and I can answer. I made a promise to her that I wouldn't tell you. That promise died with her. That promise started with me trying to contact you, and your husband freaking out on my wife and her sister. I made the promise because I thought I was going to save my marriage. I was a fool. Where was Graham on January 24, 2019? He was supposed to be on a work trip to London, or so he told his co-workers and family. In fact, he was at London Heathrow in a Marriott hotel, having an affair with my wife. At least 3 times. Please have yourself checked for herpes. They had unprotected sex, and Michelle has had herpes since her 20s. I doubt she told him. I have a picture, timestamp, the day of them together in London. I have her admission, Graham's actions post, and the WhatsApp digital flirting log. I would suggest you take his phone and look for deleted logs of his actions. Also, take his work computer. It will be a treasure trove with all the content he is doing in digital flirting from his office. I have revenge ideas if you want to see him squirm and lose it. If you don't want the evidence and want me to go away, I will never reach out to you again. However, there will be a surprise in 48 hours if you decide to not engage. I.e., how this goes down is fully up to you. Just know, with or without you, I'm outing your husband. My hate for your husband and my wife is equal. They have caused so much pain. It is now time for him to pay. Do you recall Graham being skittish in 2019, thinking his phone was hacked? I bet he forgot to mention he pissed off a husband, and he knew who was after him. Insert my contact info. Story 2. I would like to preface this with my situation. I know it will not fit everyone's story, and so it's important I lay out details for those who can relate. For those who can't, I still believe in you. You're strong as F, and you will overcome this. I am a male who has a graduate degree in healthcare. I had never earned more than $50K a year, have about $270K in student loan debt, no children, and had been dating my wife for 11 years, and was then married for just over a year before I discovered she had been having an affair for 3 years with a coworker. She was the primary breadwinner, making well over $250K a year. We were 30 and 31 when the discovery was made. I am very close with my family, particularly my older brother. He's done well for himself and has a wife and kids who I love dearly. I have an amazing group of friends that I worked very hard to keep close over the years. My marriage fell apart for a multitude of reasons, but the biggest being we grew to be different people. We enjoyed each other but took different paths. I think we both were blinded by sunk cost fallacies and also comfort. We grew up together. It's hard when every major moment in your adult life up until that point you had this person with you to stop and think, hey, maybe we aren't a good fit. I don't think we could have fixed it. I think we really liked aspects about each other, but a lot of that was molded over the years. We were too different for it to have ever worked. She cheated, but I don't hate her. In fact, I have forgiven her. This is my story of my progress after D-Day. My life was shattered. I was convinced we could fix it, that we had to. But I knew there was no way I could get over the pain she had caused. We tried therapy. We tried staying in the same place for 3 weeks before it came to a head, boiled over, and we separated. At first, I didn't tell anyone. Then I told my best friend. Then as I saw things turning for the worse, I told my brother. I won't get into these details too much. For many of you, I'm sure you understand the trauma, the horrendous pain you feel during this time. I lost 30 pounds, didn't sleep, stepped away from my job. My ex was remorseful immediately and supportive in what ways she could be, but the 3 weeks of hell I put her through for what she did was too much, and she left. I spilled my heart to my brother. He hopped on a plane that night, flew to my apartment, packed up everything that was irreplaceable to me, some essentials and clothes, anything we could fit in a Honda CR-V, and he drove me across the country to live with him and his family while I figured things out. I was at my ultimate low, $6,000 to my name, massively depressed. I couldn't eat. I just slept, unemployed, left everything behind me at my old place. I told my ex I couldn't pay for anything and that it was on her. I said, keep everything, all the stuff I ever owned. I left all my possessions at work to my friend who also worked there. I knew no one where my brother lived other than him and his family. I was a burden on my brother. I was crying, and his young kids would see it. I didn't take care of myself. I barely left the bedroom they had set up for me. I wanted to die. 3 big things happened at this point that I think helped a lot, and that again isn't for everyone, but I think really started the engine. 1. I signed up at a federally qualified health center to get free healthcare on their sliding fee scale while I was unemployed. 2. I started taking Lexapro, prescribed by one of their providers. 3. I regularly spoke with a therapist the organization provided for free. I began to eat. I started going on walks with my sister-in-law. We didn't even talk sometimes. We just walked. This was my life for 3 to 4 weeks when my brother finally sat me down and said, "You're coming to the gym with me every day?" I listened. I went every day at 5 a.m., even when I had nothing else to do, even when everything in my head said not to. I wouldn't let myself lapse on this. I said this was the one productive thing I needed to do, a step towards some kind of future. A lot of the days, I would come home and fall asleep right away. I was a burden on my brother. I didn't help around his house. I didn't do anything to show gratitude at first, but this started to change as I got my crap together. I built a schedule, regulated my sleep. The Lexapro made the nightmares go away and kind of numbed everything. The therapy visits got a lot off my chest, and my therapist gave me the best piece of advice I ever received. Now is the time to be selfish. You have to fix you at this time. I took that advice, but also had a conversation with my brother about where I was at, that I was grateful, and that I was sorry for how I was. He understood. They all did. At times, this advice may have hurt others, but in the end, they understood. My goal was to make me happy, and I set out to achieve that. The area where my brother lives is an outdoor lover's dream, something I always wanted to do. Now that I was working out regularly, I was in good hiking shape. My sister-in-law knew some people in town from work who were my age. She introduced some of them to me. They invited me on a camping trip with them. I went and had a blast. I also forgot about my life at that point. They quickly became friends. I kept working out, never missed a day. I got closer with my family, called my friends every day just to talk. My money was running out, and I eventually wanted to move out of my brother's. I applied to many basic jobs, things that didn't require a lot of thought, mindless work, things I knew I could do in my distracted state of mind. I decided to be picky, to be selfish. I decided to lean on my brother's free rent a little longer so I could find a job doing something fun, not flipping burgers or driving UPS because the pay was good. I got a fun job and met more people. My social group started growing. The original group I went camping with had a single girl who was really sweet, and we would talk a lot. I kept working out, never missed a day. I worked the jobs and stayed busy. I started paying for things randomly for my brother. He never needed me to. It was the thought that counted. At this same time, I got better and more skilled at outdoor activities. Hiking, camping, canyoning. Nature was my biggest therapy. I loved it. I craved the beautiful sights where I was at and every adventure. I got closer to my new social group. I saved up enough to move into a single-wide trailer with 2 roommates. My brother said I didn't have to leave, but I insisted. I still saw them every day. I did this routine for months. The single girl I had been messaging learned of my situation and never pressured me, understood where my mind was at. We stayed very close. My brother sat me down one day and told me I should consider going back to doing work that I had a degree for. I began researching ways to make that happen. I used my social network I had to build to get contact info and presented a pitch to the CEO of the health center that had helped me out initially to consider hiring me and make a new program. He agreed. It took several more months before I was officially hired during a time where I continued working, living frugally, growing my friend group, having fun in nature, and getting closer to the girl I considered my closest friend. Finally, the day came. The company hired me, a dream position with 3 times the salary I had ever dreamed of making. It was a nonprofit, so I was able to apply for programs to get my student loans forgiven after so many years of work. I took on the project of making it successful. During the next several months, I felt ready and began dating the girl who was sweet and made me trust again. I felt I found what made me happy: nature, friends, family. I grew the business and busted my ass to hit all my targets 6 months ahead of time. I kept working out, I ate healthy. I got divorced, and I came to terms with it. Neither of us had to pay anything. We agreed just to split it clean. I just let her have it all. I forgave my ex. I signed up for what would have been an impossible race years prior to challenge myself. I finished it. I kept chugging. I never quit. I kept one foot moving in front of the other, slowly but surely. I fell in love with that girl. I became closer with friends and family than I ever had. I loved my job. I loved where I was. I got off Lexapro. I continued therapy. I began to understand myself, relationships, what went wrong, what trauma was. I forgave myself. I learned to love myself and be happy. I made enough money to save for a down payment on a house. I moved out of the trailer and set up an Airbnb in my new house. I used the money to cover my mortgage. Now, nearly 2 years later, my GF has moved in, and we're as happy as hell. I see my family every week. I go on adventures all the time. I live frugally. My salary is more than enough to support that. I never could have imagined I could do it, but here I am. I'm the happiest I've been, and it took me 33 years to find that. This isn't a brag. This isn't a how-to guide. This is, it can be better. The world's not over. My world was over, and somehow, I now feel like it's just beginning. Please, please, it may not seem like much, but don't give up. I'm rooting for you. I know you can do this. You just have to know it, not think it, but know it. You will get better. Things will be better. I believe in you because I was there. I was ready to be done, and I leaned into everything I had to find my way out. Give it everything. Find your happiness and never let it go. Keep that, and the rest will figure itself out. Some relevant comments. OP, I thank God that you were able to overcome your marital tragedy. You mentioned at the beginning the salary disparity between you and your wife. Do you believe that this was an ingredient for her cheating? AP was a successful man. Did your wife lose her admiration for you? You mentioned her remorse and her support for you. Do you think that if you had stayed, she would have been firm and trying to recover the relationship she destroyed? Another thing, what was the cheating dynamic like? How did she act to cheat? And what was she like with you in those 3 years? How did you find out? I do believe that contributed to it, mainly because her parents, who had divorced, were sensitive to the idea, and because she worked a lot. She worked her ass off, and on the other hand, I did what I could with what I had at work, but was very limited in my ability to expand. I still worked a full 40-hour week, sometimes more, but I just didn't make as much. I tried to help the disparity by taking on all other tasks: cooking, cleaning, laundry, finances, etc. The other problem is she was a horrible spender. The month after we separated, she spent $32,000 on who knows what for new things in her new apartment. It wasn't uncommon for us to spend between $15 to $20K a month. About $1,000 of that was me, outside of rent and utilities. The rest was her. I didn't buy nice things for myself, never had new clothes or stuff like that, but I would constantly be talking with her about getting her spending under control so we could save up for XYZ, the biggest being her not having to work as much. But she always flip-flopped. Sometimes she wanted to make partner, sometimes she wanted to go part-time, and so my nagging really rubbed her the wrong way. She would call it her money that she worked hard for, and it wasn't fair. I would tell her to pull back. We weren't a team at that point. But again, differences. She grew up wealthy and never ever worried about finances and had her college paid for. I grew up with very loving parents who just didn't make money much, and as a result, we were always very frugal. At times in college, I would have to send my parents money to help them make their mortgage, so just really different walks of life. She wiped her ass with $50. Losing that for no reason made me sick to my stomach for days. AP was successful but was also married. There was no future to be had there. They just happened to be a perfect match. She needed validation from others. He had borderline personality disorder, so his manipulation and her constant need of attention were the perfect match. No, I don't think we would have ever been firm in trying to fix it. Once the damage was done, we knew there was no getting over it. I had been cheated on once before in a previous relationship. I never really got over it. That ex was very vindictive and awful to me during and after the cheating, and my ex-wife knew about that experience and the effect it had on me. She always said to me that my personality, trustworthiness, humor, and wisdom were exactly what she would imagine for a spouse, but that we were just too different and we didn't realize it because we had been together 13 years. Each of us had things to be content with the other person. We tried. We did therapy and all that for a few weeks, but it was obvious there was no way to come back from it. There were always suspicions. Our entire relationship, she would have questionable moments here and there, but it seemed like we would talk and it would get fixed. But the signs were telling, honestly. Not much was different. I think we had been together long enough. I suspected it, but it still was a surprise. For the duration, odd thing is, we actually had a very good and happy sex life. She said so herself, and I would agree. That never stopped. Up until 2 days before discovery, that was still happening. We were kids when we met, so there was a lot of innocence in the relationship. Even when the world was falling apart, we were still able to have humor and joke about things and laugh. It would quickly be replaced with despair, but there was definitely some kind of bond there. We enjoyed each other's company. We enjoyed each other sensually and intellectually, but I think we just weren't lifelong partner material. It's hard to describe, but something was just off and missing. This is awesome. Just curious. Have you heard from your ex-wife? Has she reached out? We've talked here and there. We're on good terms. She's engaged, living what I assume is her happiest life as well. She did some terrible things to me by cheating, but she was remorseful and did what she felt she could to help me after it happened. I spent 12 years with her, despite the cheating. There's no denying we have plenty of laughs and good times. It's hard to just hate on all that. It was an experience that I've since grown from. We always end convos wishing each other the best, and when I say it, I do mean it. I have no ill will towards her anymore.